Have you ever felt a presence when you knew you were alone? A whisper on the wind that sounded just like your name. We often dismiss these moments, telling ourselves it's just our imagination running wild. But what if it's not? What if our minds are the most haunted places of all? Tonight, we're going to blur the lines between what's real and what's in our heads. We'll explore the chilling world of psychological horror, where the scariest monsters aren't under your bed, but inside your own mind. And then, we'll step out of the shadows of fiction and into the cold, hard reality of true horror encounters. These are stories from people just like you and me, who found themselves face to face with the unexplained. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to question everything you thought you knew about fear. Psychological horror is so terrifying because it doesn't rely on jump scares or gruesome monsters. It preys on something far more personal: your own sanity. It's the creak of a floorboard in an empty house, the flicker of a light in your peripheral vision, the growing paranoia that you're being watched. It's the slow, creeping dread that something is fundamentally wrong with your world, or worse, with you. Think about the classic haunted house story. Is the house truly possessed by spirits? Or is the protagonist slowly losing their grip on reality? The genius of psychological horror is that it often leaves this question unanswered. It forces the audience to become investigators, piecing together clues, doubting what we see, and ultimately, questioning our own perceptions. The fear comes from the uncertainty. It's the breakdown of trust in our own senses. When you can no longer believe your own eyes and ears, what's left to hold on to? This genre plays on our deepest, most primal fears. The fear of the unknown, the fear of isolation, and the fear of losing control. Imagine being trapped in your own home, not by locked doors, but by your own mind telling you that stepping outside means certain doom. Or imagine seeing a doppelganger, a perfect copy of yourself, living your life, and no one else notices the difference. These scenarios don't need ghosts or demons. The horror is entirely human, rooted in anxieties we can all understand. It's the slow burn that makes it so effective. It's not about a sudden shock, but a gradual descent into madness, pulling you down with it every step of the way. The most terrifying prison isn't made of iron bars, but of thoughts you can't escape. Now, as unsettling as those fictional tales are, they offer a strange comfort. We can close the book or turn off the screen. The story ends. But what happens when the horror doesn't end? What happens when it's your reality? We're now moving into the realm of real-life encounters. Stories shared by people who swear what they experienced was all too real. These aren't just campfire tales. They are personal testimonies of moments that have haunted them ever since. Our first story comes from a man named Mark, a long-haul truck driver who spent countless nights on deserted highways. One particular night, while driving through the desolate plains of Nevada, his radio started acting up. It wasn't just static. It was switching between stations on its own, playing snippets of old songs and garbled voices. He tried to turn it off, but the knob was stuck. The radio was possessed. Then, a clear voice cut through the noise. It wasn't from a broadcast. It was a child's voice, and it whispered his name, Mark. Just once. His blood ran cold. He was miles from the nearest town, the road ahead and behind him completely empty. He slammed his foot on the gas, not daring to look in his rearview mirror. The radio went silent as suddenly as it had started. To this day, Mark can't explain what happened. He sold his truck and found a new job, vowing never to drive those empty roads at night again. Next, we have a story from a group of college students who decided to explore an abandoned hospital on the outskirts of their town. It was a classic dare, fueled by youthful bravado. The building was decaying, with peeling paint and shattered windows, a perfect setting for a ghost hunt. They ventured deep inside, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. In the old pediatric ward, they found a room filled with rusted cribs. As they were about to leave, one of them, Sarah, heard it. The faint sound of a lullaby. It sounded like it was coming from an old music box. They froze, listening. The melody was gentle but incredibly eerie in the dead silence of the hospital. Then, one of the cribs began to rock, slowly, rhythmically, back and forth, as if an invisible hand were pushing it. They didn't scream. They were too scared to make a sound. They just turned and ran, not stopping until they were back in their car, gasping for air. They never spoke of it again until years later, when Sarah shared the story, her voice still trembling with the memory. Our final account is perhaps the most chilling, because it happened in the one place you're supposed to feel safest, Yorun, Ome. It comes from a young woman named Clara, who had just moved into an old apartment by herself. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. Then, little things started happening. Objects would move. She'd leave her keys on the counter, only to find them on the bookshelf. She'd close a cabinet door, and moments later, find it wide open. She blamed it on her own forgetfulness, a side effect of the stress of moving. But one night, it escalated. She was woken up by a strange sound from her living room. It sounded like someone was dragging a heavy piece of furniture across the floor. Her heart pounded in her chest. She lived alone. She grabbed the heaviest thing she could find, a lamp from a bedside table, and crept towards the door. Peeking into the living room, she saw nothing out of place. Everything was exactly as she'd left it. Relieved, but still shaken, she went back to bed. The next morning, she walked into her living room and froze. In the center of the room, her heavy wooden coffee table had been flipped completely upside down. There was no way she could have done it herself. The table was too heavy for one person to lift, let alone flip. There were no signs of a break-in. The doors and windows were all locked from the inside. She moved out the very next day, breaking her lease and never looking back. She couldn't shake the feeling that she hadn't been living alone at all. What do we make of these stories? Are they tricks of the mind, products of exhaustion and suggestion, or are they glimpses into a world that exists just beyond our understanding? The line between psychological horror and real-life paranormal encounters is incredibly thin. Both prey on the same fundamental fear, the loss of control and the terrifying realization that we are not always safe, not even in our own minds or our own homes. Mark's haunted radio, the student's ghostly lullaby, Clara's possessed apartment. These experiences defy logical explanation. They leave us with a profound sense of unease because they challenge our perception of reality. They suggest that there are forces at play that we don't understand, and perhaps we're not meant to. The true horror of these stories isn't in what was seen or heard, but in the lingering questions they leave behind. The what if. What if it happens to me? Could I be the next person to hear a whisper in an empty room or see an object move on its own? This uncertainty is the essence of true fear. It's a fear that doesn't fade when the sun comes up. It stays with you, a quiet hum of anxiety in the back of your mind. So, the next time you feel that strange chill run down your spine, or you hear an unexplained noise in the night, pause for a moment. Is it just your imagination, or have you just stumbled upon the edge of something else entirely? The truth is, we may never know for sure, and that, perhaps, is the most terrifying thought of all. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the dark. If these stories have resonated with you, or if you have your own unexplained encounter to share, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more explorations into the unknown. Stay safe and try to get some sleep tonight.